Oh boy, this quiet is violent. Thankfully, I have a solution.
Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang.
Hey guys, welcome to the Pop Song Professor YouTube channel where we make English class awesome by explaining and sometimes roasting lyrics on weekdays. Today we are talking not only about car radio, but we are also talking about Ride. And the reason I want to talk to you about both of these songs today is because they are inseparably connected. Tyler Joseph changed his mind after he wrote Car Radio, and he gives us his new mindset in Ride, and it is absolutely fascinating. But let's go ahead, we'll start with looking at Car Radio's lyrics, and then we'll move into Ride's lyrics and talk about what exactly changed and how he doesn't want to spend as much time thinking. So, first lines in Car Radio. I ponder something great, my lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's dire my time today. Something big is happening. We're on the verge of something momentous. Then we get into the chorus. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought because somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence. So essentially what he's saying there is that he has thoughts that he tries to drown out with the car radio. And I want to turn that question over to you guys. Are there thoughts that you try to not think about? You can probably think of a few right now that are just kind of always at the back of your mind, but you're kind of like, that's kind of uncomfortable, or that's scary, or it's, you know, not good, and I want to try to stay away from those thoughts. But flip that over, and the other question is, what do you use to distract yourself? For Tyler, he realized when he lost his car radio, when it got stolen from him, that he'd been using his car radio to distract him from those thoughts, and when he didn't have that, those thoughts crowded in. So for me, I think that's pretty similar to something like Netflix, where I don't want to think about something, so I turn on Netflix, or I watch YouTube videos, or I subscribe and like and comment the Pop Song Professor, because somebody stole my Pop Song Professor, and now I just subscribe and like on his channel. Did you catch the subliminal messaging there? And that helps to distract me from, you know, existential crises that are on the brink of happening. He says, sometimes quiet is violent, and then I'm forced to deal with what I feel. There's no distraction to mask what is real. He's dealing with feelings of fear, of guilt, of shame, you know, questions of conscience, and he doesn't want to have to deal with them. And then when he says, I could pull the steering wheel, there's even thoughts of suicide mixed in there. And then we get into verse 3, I ponder something terrifying, because this time there's no sound to hide behind. I find over the course of our human existence. And so he's having these existential questions, and when he has nothing to distract him, he feels like he's got to go deeper because those thoughts are just taking him along on the ride. And we hear this other line that I think is so telling, and it definitely foreshadows Ride. Oh my, too deep, please stop thinking. He just, it's painful, it's scary. He doesn't want to be doing this, but he feels like he has to. And he kind of sees the car radio as something that's kept him from dealing with things he needed to deal with. And so he's kind of like, he doesn't want to, but he feels like I should anyway. And that's the attitude that's going to change completely when we get into Ride. We hear, and there's faith and there's sleep. We need to pick one, please, because faith is to be awake, and to be awake is for us to think, and for us to think is to be alive. And so we see this transition from faith to being awake to thinking to being alive. And so that thinking is necessary to being alive, and that's where he's saying, like, we've got to do it no matter what, even if it's painful. And he finishes the verse telling people, I need to let you know you need to try to think. But then we move into Ride, and hear what happens in the verse 1. I just want to stay in the sun where I find pieces of peace in the sun's peace of mind. You kind of get this image in your head of like sitting on the beach and, you know, sunglasses on, a drink in your hand, and the water, and, you know, he's looking for something that is less violent than quiet. Like, he's looking for peace. And he admits, yeah, sometimes I get existential or morbid or even suicidal. He says, I think about the end just way too much. So those thoughts are still there, but he, more than dealing with them, he wants peace from them. And we get the conclusion to what he's saying here in the chorus. Oh, I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride. He knows that he's going to die eventually, and so he feels like, you know, I can suffer or I can enjoy what time I have. In verse 2, we hear him list a lot of different things that he thinks about. You know, would he die for somebody? Would he take care of his family, even if he's like not living for them right now? You know, what's he gonna do to be a good person? And these are the things that crowd into his head when he doesn't have the car radio on. He summarizes that by saying all these questions there for real, like who would you live for, who would you die for, and would you ever kill? He really would much rather be able to step aside from those thoughts every once in a while and just enjoy life. And that's what we hear in the bridge. I've been thinking too much, help me. And that is such a dramatic change from car radio, because in car radio he's saying, I'm not thinking enough. I'm distracting myself with entertainment, with other things, with the outside world, with just noise. I need to sit in silence to be able to deal with what I feel, with what is real. And then you get into Ride, and he's thought through this stuff, and he's kind of been dedicated. He's lived that mindset, and now he's saying, no, I need to take a step back. I need peace. It's not that he's not gonna think about those things, but he's been thinking too much. There's a scale, he's gone too far, and he wants to pull it back. At times, the car radio needs to be turned on. It is healthy to not have to think about these existential things so much, especially when maybe the solution is not to think about them more, because the problem is thinking about them. There are certain things that you don't get anything out of thinking about them. They just cause you to fear more and to worry more. People who have anxiety, like a lot of that anxiety is just, like, the problem is not that the problems that you're anxious about, it's that those thoughts are crowding into your head and you can't get rid of them. And I think Tyler's kind of saying, hey, we need to be able to tell the difference between, you know, thinking through things that need to be thought through so we can be at peace, and then sometimes saying no to anxiety and anxiousness and overwhelming unhelpful thoughts, and saying, I would much rather, I've earned the peace. I can go to that peace and be satisfied with that, and that's where I want to be. Because remember, guys, in this whole story that he's telling, peace is the end goal. Thinking through things is a step in the process, but peace is the end goal. So my encouragement to you is, if you have a lot of deep existential thoughts, ask yourself, when I think through these thoughts, what is the whole point? What do I want to find on the other end? I think for most of us, the answer is going to be peace. And so if you can grab that peace right now, not by ignoring problems that need to be solved, but if you have already gotten there, or even if you just need to take a break, try peace. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. What did this whole idea make you think of? Where is this putting you in your headspace? I've got a lot of thoughts rattling around in my head, but I'd like to hear what you have to say. In the meantime, check out these videos right here. I hope that you enjoy them. I promise you will, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.